Welcome back to the Command Stack. I'm John,
I'm Ken.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Ryan.
and today we're going to be going over the Las Vegas Open 2023. This is kind of exciting for us because this is the first tournament that we're going to be covering again. Our very first episode of the Command Stack was covering the 2022 Las Vegas Open.
So this makes it season 2, right?
That's correct. Look at us go. Look at us go. Season 2, one season down, Las Vegas Open.
Yeah. So, like normal, we're going to start off with a little bit of news. This is the first episode of 2023. So some things have been announced since the last time we met. I think Ryan's going to take that, right?
I could take it.
He's taking it. He's taking it.
Garrett taking it.
Yeah, I can talk about it.
Like I said when we had to restart this a couple times, like I'm a little rusty. I haven't been on it for a while. So it's season 2, but part of it seems like we're still in season 1.
Season 2 starts now. Worlds is coming. Everybody get excited. Get your fleets ready if you got a ticket. If you didn't, like me and you're a scrub, don't get excited. But you can still get excited because there's a last chance qualifier. That's right. There's still lots of tickets left. Sign up ASAP. Make it loud. Make it known that you want to come. It's in Chicago. I know it's a downside. I get it, but it can be nice. We've got the last chance qualifier, of course, and then if you don't want to play competitive, there is a plethora of side events. We got the Summa of all things. We've got some sector play happening on Sunday, I believe. 800 points, team games. They're going to last a long time. It's going to be great. Of course, all of us are going to be at Adepticon. Our 2 champions, John and Ryan. Say one for the big team. Good job, guys.
Yeah, we're going to be playing in the world event itself.
Absolutely. Other news, I think everybody everywhere, if you're getting a Summa kit, you probably have a Summa kit, which is good to hear. What about anything else, guys? Anything else about the World Open qualifier you want to talk about?
I think it's been talked about. The World qualifier is day 1 is going to be everyone, and then day 2 is going to be a top 20 cut from that, and then day 3 days of Armada World event is going to be a top 8 cut. So it's going to cut from full field down to 20 down to 8 is I think what they're talking about right now. So for sure, they said 4 people from the last chance qualifier will be rolling into the world event, and it's just one of those things, like if people don't show up, if they'll then just probably go down the list and fill in with the last chance qualifier to make sure the event is full.
Yeah, the big thing there for me is that top 8 for the final day. It's not, a top cut like we've seen in 2018, 2019 Worlds or 2017 Worlds even. It'll be a nice Swiss event. And it's going to be our, like the best Armada we can have really for our championship. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too, because I know I've talked about this on the channel before and on our podcast that I strongly dislike elimination style Armada, and that's usually what the championship ends up being. And this isn't to knock any of the players that have ever played for the World Championship or people that have become World Championship, but an elimination game of Armada is so drastically different than just a normal game of Armada. It's like so point fortressy, and it ends up being like I killed one of your fighters that costs more than the one fighter you killed on my side, and I have a victory token. I win with 30 points or something like that, and it's just not enjoyable to watch, and I imagine not enjoyable to play in. Like the amount of stress like to become world championship over one game is crazy.
No, instead you have to go through the stress of 3 games on the final day, and that doesn't count the 8 games you had to play to get there.
Yeah, there are going to be some tired players on Sunday for sure.
Yeah. Most events are 2 days, that extra third day, and if you came from the last chance qualifier and made it into day 3, that's 4 days in a row of Armada. You've played a lot of Armada to get there.
Yes, and I want to say, if there's any stragglers out there, if you have a Worlds invite, It is confirmed that if you have a ticket, you will be playing. But do not procrastinate. Contact AMG, and if you need info on that, contact us. And we'll get you that contact info.
We'll put our people in contact with their people.
That's right. We're gonna get you there. If there's no tables, we'll build you a table on site.
Yeah. Okay. So with the news out of the way, let's dive into the event that we're going to be talking about, which was the Las Vegas Open that took place this last weekend. So that would be like the end of January for those that are listening in the future. This event had 24 players in it that I'm aware of. The full lists for the event haven't been released yet, so I did the super scientific method of finding out information, and I looked at all the pictures that got posted online. So by those pictures and the account of those pictures, out of the 24 fleets, 10 of them were Empire, 9 of them were Rebel, 3 of them were CIS, and 2 of them were the Galactic Republic. So, guys, have any thoughts or comments on the breakup of the factions that were played?
I think it's incredibly sad. There's no more GIR players, more than 2. But compared to Legion's breakdown, pretty similar faction-wise. Empire's favorite, always. Fan favorite. But no, I'm happy to see the CIS coming back in there. But man, the GIR that everyone wants to come to win, and they're a hard faction to play.
Yeah.
Well, Garrett, you and I are just going to have to start building up some GAR faction fleets, and we're going to just go through the tournament scene and win with, only GAR commanders and GAR fleets.
I tried. I got slapped. I got riggedy wrecked.
Yeah. I was actually surprised at there's a lower number of, I feel like I didn't run the math, GAR and CIS players in this tournament than we normally have seen. I feel like the Empire and Rebels, while they normally make up the majority, haven't made up the super majority like this recently. I feel like we had been shifting closer to almost like 25, 25, 25, or 25%, 25%, 25% skewed more toward the Empire and Rebels, but this, like, only 5 fleets were Clone Wars at all, which is, I think, on the lower side. We'll talk about this when we get later on into it, but that's it. For like fleet archetypes, again, I did the super scientific method of looking at fleets, and I counted the things that I always pay attention to as much as I can when I'm looking at the picture. So making fighter counts is difficult when it's just a picture of the table from the edge. So I noticed that 4 of the Empire fleets had onagers. There was 1 fleet that had a super star destroyer. There were 5 Rebel fleets that had an MC-30 in them. And there was 2 Recusants on the table, which I assume are Patriot Fists. So 3 CIS players, 2 of them probably brought Patriot Fist. And the biggest thing to note on this is that there were 0 Starhawks in the entire field. So I think that's a big shift in what we've seen. But at the same time, now that we've done this for a whole year of tournaments, this is the West Coast, which is very Empire heavy and very onager heavy. So in the other events that we've covered recently, the onagers have not been making a spotlight, but onagers seem to be back and the Starhawks are gone, while in the other tournaments, onagers were gone and Starhawks are back. So it's either we are going through just the circle of what people are playing, or it's very, very much so localized to regions what people like playing. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I think West Coast is also very much burst damage, like very heavy on that, very, big dice pools, big, 7, 8, 9 damage type attacks. This is not, look, the fleets that we're going to look at and talk about, there's only one that's like I would describe as like chip damage. Most of them, the other 3 I would say are all burst damage, and I think those they're all built that, even though they didn't play a Starhawk, they're built to take one down.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it too was specifically because this is your last chance to get a ticket. I think a lot of people were bringing what they're comfortable with. which is why you saw a lot of Rebel and Empire. And I think for the Starhawk, I don't know if it's just, pure pressure of like, oh, people don't like when I bring the Starhawk, just like when people don't like bringing the Onager. And a little bit of that, just pure pressure in the community. But I think it's mostly just, honestly, comfort. They're going to bring what they know that can win. And you'll see a lot of the top players, the really good, a lot of good players are here. Sam, for example, he brings stuff that he wants to see what he can do with. But what do you think, Ken?
I'm kind of going to agree with you, Garrett. I got the feeling just looking at some of the lists here and some of the descriptions, people were trying to get those tickets for Worlds, and with I think it was 4 that was up in LVO, you want to bring something you're going to do well with, and I think there was probably a certain degree of here are fleets that I may fly at Gen Con and see how well they will do, or Adepticon, yeah. Where Worlds is going to be at Adepticon, and we're all going to be there. But I think you're going to see a little bit of test play where they may have one ship in a configuration that maybe this is good. You probably have undoubtedly 1 or 2 lists which are very clearly going to be there at the Worlds list. But I think the other thing is if you can get that ticket at LVO, as John alluded to, 15 games of Armada over 4 days and tournament games is a lot. So if you can get your ticket ahead of time at LVO and not have to go to last chance qualifier at Adepticon, you're going to be in a slightly better state, and you save a whole night with hotels. But that's
that is true.
But by the same token, at this point, if you don't have a hotel for Adepticon, you might be in trouble. All in all, I think it was kind of interesting to me, kind of like it's already been pointed out, the diversity in fleets, because usually there's a good third to half of Clone Wars, and that just wasn't here. And I think it goes to what everyone else has already spoken to, is people want to score high. They want to score well. GAR is a faction that has been difficult to do that with. But as we're going to see, Clone Wars did still do fairly well.
Yes, it did. Okay, so now that we've talked about what I looked at as a whole, let's talk about the people that made the day 2 cut. So the day 2 cut was top 8. And I'm going to list the admirals or commanders that were in day 2. And it is Martuk, Ramadi, Agate, Ramadi, Agate, Ramadi, and then my boy, Papa Pelp, made a top 8. And I think this is the first time ever. And we should really just stop everything and just talk about that for a second. That
this is the best placement of Palp that I can remember.
It might be the only placement of Pelp, to be honest. I don't even know if there's any record that we've gone through of anyone playing Palpatine in the last year competitively.
Or ever.
So maybe he's the most underrated commander ever. I every time we play him on Ion Radio, Ken or myself, I've always enjoyed the games with him because he's just kind of, no one knows how to play against him because no one plays him or has seen him, and people are like, Palpatine's a commander? Isn't he that guy that you sit on your Star Destroyer when people shoot to make them spend their defense tokens? And that's how you normally see him, but he did very well. So props to, I believe that's Bernard L. for doing well with a Palpatine list. You have my respect for that because no one else has done it. So that's really cool.
He's a command stack mad lad.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Okay,
he's going to bring it to LCQ and surprise when he wins Worlds, right?
John, just give the generic meta breakdown fleet of what he brought. What
he has in. So this is just me scratching notes. So there's other things in here, but this is like the general archetype. He has an Onager, a Gladiator, and then 124 points of squadrons. So I'm pretty sure there's a Gazanti in there probably, or another ship that I didn't write down. But for the most part, it's an Onager and the Gladiator, so you can zoom in. I know for sure the Gladiator had Intel Officer in it, just for you can get rid of all of your tokens when I attack you.
Yeah, I glanced at the list, and I think they're rogues too. They're rogues.
So like, I'm gonna hit you probably with an Onager with Intel. So Palpatine says, brace. Intel says redirect, eat this damage or discard. And then demo can come in and be like, so brace is still getting discarded if you didn't use it. And my intel also says that you can get rid of your redirect if you just ate all that damage from the onager. And then I'm going to hit you with demo. And then if it's still there, my rogues are going to come in and kill you. So this is kind of how, one of the problems of playing a Palpatine list is he's kind of like TF. Like, TF is a cool commander, but to make him work, you need to have someone pick your surprise attack, or you need to heavily invest into cards like the only card that can give out raid in the CIS fleet,
B2.
which is B2. And B2s are 7 points per card. So every time that you want to try to put raid out, you have to spend 7 points on a ship. So each ship has an increased tax of 7 points just to make him work. And Palpatine, I feel, is kind of that way because you want to force your opponent to make terrible mistakes and terrible calls. And like Palpatine and Intel does that because really you only fight for like maybe 2 to 3 turns in Armada. So on the first turn you're fighting, you tell them they have to toss their braces, and then you intel their redirects. And then the second turn you're fighting, you toss with Palpatine, you have to toss your redirects, and then you intel their braces. So there's no way around it. They're going to get rid of all their tokens. So that's kind of my interpretation of it. So
Yeah, that's a good breakdown. I think we've I think it'll be something fun to see if people copy it. You know, why not? It's so strange.
I
Definitely try it in your local store.
So my
Take it home.
opinion on him is, again, I've had fun playing him every single time I've played him. So if you guys haven't played him, just try to build a fleet around him to bring to your local stores and play, because at least it's going to be different than anything you've ever played before.
You mean not Ramadi?
Then not Ramadi or Agate or Martuk, the 3
Whoa.
most boring generic
Whoa.
commanders.
I think Riken is the most boring commander. I mean,
well, you
come
can't
on.
say that. He's not dead. Okay, so I also have the points bids for all the fleets in the top 8, and we've seen a shift. The biggest bid in the entire top 8 was 4 points, and that was the Palpatine fleet. We had the second biggest bid at 2 points, and that was third place. We had 3 lists that were 1 point, and they were 5th, 6th, and 7th. And we had 3 lists that were 400 points, which was 1st, 2nd, and 4th. So we've gone from very large bids that we've seen at all other tournaments, which, to be fair, is mainly Hawk players and players that want for sure 2nd place, as I've seen, to this, which is more bursty damage, fleets that can do both 1st and 2nd, and they're just not going to bid because why waste points, to be honest. So there was only a 4-point difference in bid between all these fleets, and the fleets that tend to have less bid actually did better in this, is what I've seen from just, looking at the numbers. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Is it a lack of farm hawks that they're playing into? I don't know. I was just telling somebody last night, I was like, Armada goes through dips and mountains and valleys of bids. So it's interesting. All of a sudden it switched. But I don't know. I think it might be just the pairings. They didn't pair up with somebody who was just over there farming tokens. Maybe.
I think it's all these fleets are like, fine, you want to give me first? Fantastic. You want to give Demolisher first player? Okay. You want to give the Onager first player? That goes perfectly well with my fleet. So I think for the most part, they are burst damage. They all had the answer for the deep bid, type of fleet, and then they thrive going first. So it's like, yeah, why not in this cycle?
Yeah,
I'm going to agree with Ryan. I really think that's exactly what was going on. There's been enough talk on people wanting to go first. Like, why do 14, 15 points? And when you realize that your fleet now is got a 15% advantage or a 5% advantage over, the opposing fleet, I mean, that's a lot of points when you really talk about it. I mean, 15 points, 2 upgrades, that's almost a whole flotilla. So,
like 2 LTTs. Think of the dice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my thought on that is, the only time that we really see bid is fleets that absolutely want first or absolutely want second. And so if we talk about the bidding as being valleys and hills and mountains, when you're a second, let's just use, for example, fleet archetypes that we talk about. So like Farm Hawks, they have to go second. Otherwise, it's really, really hard for them to win a game because most of their winning is edged on the fact that they can outlast the 6 turns and farm enough points to win. So them sacrificing points to a bid when they're just one ship doesn't matter. Other fleets that have to go first, we don't see as much of anymore, but I'm just going to go back to an example of 2-ship. In a 2-ship versus 2-ship meta from the last Worlds, whoever had the biggest bid was going to win. And that's why we saw bids go into like 25 plus points, because in those matchups, fleets that have both big bids, both wanting to go first with price and things like that, whoever had the bid won. And it was very difficult as a second player, price player, to win a match like that against the bid. So sacrificing points for your bid made perfect sense. Fleets then that wanted to go second learned that in that world, that when 25% of the people are showing up with 20 plus point bids because they're all playing 2-ship, that you didn't need to have a bid at all. So I could go 400 and end up with second, which is what I want anyway. So I think this is that downward slope. The last couple of tournaments that have been played, at least over here in the United States, have been farming fleets that have won. Like I won Gen Con with a Farm Hawk. A Farm Hawk won the Canadian up in what was that? Montreal, yeah. So that was also a Farm Hawk that wanted second place. And then who won the games? The Golden State. I don't remember.
That was a no bid Radis list, actually. That was a 400-point Radis list.
Yeah, so then you can see we had stacked, and also actually now that I talk about it, because Nova was the Imperial list that was like Rogues and Interdictor that wanted second place too. So he had the biggest bid, I think, out of all of them that we had seen so far. So we had a couple big bids in a row and then a reaction to it. And the Golden State, we saw, like you said, there's a no bid Radis fleet, which Radis historically wants first place. And if you were going up against fleets that really absolutely have to play second place, you don't need a bid because you're going to get first place anyway. So we're now on that downward slope. And as you can see, no one in this entire tournament had a bid. Why? Because we're on that downward slope of back to having no bids, because the people that want first or second don't really care, and they don't want to play the game of bidding against something like a Farm Hawk. That's kind of my opinion on the bid situation.
I love it, and I agree. And I agree mostly because I like to spend all my points. Every point, 400.
Well, that's also because you're a GAR player and you need about 25 more points to be competitive.
Okay, yeah, it's true. It hurts. I've been cheating with Martuk, though. It's fun to win. Where are we going next? We going into the list. We start at 4th place.
Yes, let's start with the 4th place list.
All right, that's me. I'll be covering it's Boba Fett. So it's Matt Moncrief got 4th. Congratulations, Matt. He was flying Ramadi on a test bed with skilled first officer, ordnance experts, veteran gunners, orbital red beam, and Raykel, which is probably the best Onager title. Then he was flying a Kuat with Admiral Ozzel, Admiral Ozzel, boarding troopers, which I want to talk about, electronic countermeasures, PDIC, and external racks, Demolisher with skilled first officer, ordnance racks, ordnance experts, and external rats, a Gazanti with Vader and Comsnet, and 4 TIE Fighter squadrons. So what we were talking about was ships that fleets that like to go first, no bid, and can put out a hurt. And all 3 of these main combat ships will hurt you. if they catch you wrong. I do want to make I asked Matt real quick before he came on here just to tell me what were you boarding trooper Kuat, and I've seen a lot of stuff on the forum or the discords about you can't put boarding troopers on a Kuat because you're only getting 2 tokens, but Matt said it was vital. He said it's vital for engaging the tank pieces that are in the meta. It threatens Agate, it threatens Admo because Admo has to have like a ready defense token. And also it's vital to deal with thermals, which you see, which are prevalent. And then so BT helps you. All right, fine, you're gonna blow your brace if you want a thermal. All right, well your brace is gone now. So he said it was vital. He really feels like it's vital for Empire in general to have a BT element. And the objectives were Ion Storm for red, Contested Outpost, and Doom Station.
Yeah. So
any other observations about the fleet?
So I would agree with you. This fleet very much so looks like I want to be first, but I can play second if I have to fleet. And I would agree with everything that you said that he said about Boarding Trooper. I'm a huge fan of Boarding Trooper, and just 2 tokens when you think about it. Like, what are the ships that you're having difficulty killing with, let's say, this fleet? What are their defense tokens? Like, the harder ships right now in the game to kill are like Venators with Tranquility. So they only have really 2 defense tokens. Their Brace and their Redirect, and then they Thermal Shield with it to stay alive. Then you have Munificence, which we'll check out later on, which are Brace, Redirect, Salvo. You only need 2 tokens. You need to be able to spend the Brace and spend the Redirect, and those ships are neutered. We're no longer in a real meta of seeing a bunch of like MC-80s or Star Destroyers that are the main battleship that you need to get in there and spend like all 4 tokens to make it count. That's why like a lot of times like you would do boarding troopers with QOTs or ISD 2s so you can spend all 4. Like that card, we've been preaching it for over a year now, but that's such an important card, and I would agree with the Empire.
I'm on the same page, 100%. I love the fleet. I love Vader out here just chucking. He's got 5 people to chuck. Just throwing them out there. Like, I guess only 4. But yeah, I mean, he starts full speed ahead, gets in close, pops that BTs with the QOT, and then demolishes like, hey, I heard you got some shields left. And then he finishes you off. He's got Order Experts, so his rerolls, pop the skilled first officer to make sure he gets all the doubles he wants. And then Raquel back there just adding
bombing away.
It's just, I mean, he just finishes you. And then I don't know. It's beautiful. I think this is a good list to fly over and over and over though. There's not a lot of shenanigans going on. It's just pulling up, shooting, pulling away.
And then the fighters are just there to stop other fighters to kill you for like 1.5 turns. So,
and a little bit of activation. Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, I like it. So let's do our standard. What objective would you pick if? Let's just assume that we have bid over this fleet. This fleet comes in at 400 points. Would you choose first or second against this fleet? Because that's really the world that we're diving into now. Not necessarily of I'm going to be forced to play their objectives, but what would you pick? Would you pick to be first or second?
What do you think? I guess I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna say second, because I've been playing a lot of lists where I rely on the little objective tokens and victory tokens. So I would take second, make him pick. But if I was gonna take first, I would definitely take probably Ion Storm is what I'm gonna take out of here, because he's gonna load up on that station with contested outposts, and yeah, Ion Storm. I feel like I can do a little bit better. He's going to put the asteroids out, and maybe I can maneuver my way away from him and not get all those objective tokens on my ships.
Okay. Yeah, I would take first against this. I don't like giving demo or the Kuat first player. I gotta. If I'm in range, I gotta move out of the way. I'd also take Ion Storm. I know Matt loves to loves objectives where he can set all the obstacles up. But this doesn't have, you know, like the TRC to make a crit. This doesn't have like the automatic generation. Now he's going to get a lot of Ramadi dice from that for sure. But I don't want to face, you know, forward-facing fleets like ISDs and onagers that, you know, you don't want to fly straight at with contested outposts and Doom Station.
Especially with Raquel. I'm going to jump ahead into what I would talk about, but with Raquel, you don't want to take a contested outpost.
So interestingly enough, mostly everything Garrett said, I was thinking along the same lines with Vader throwing people out the airlock. You've got Raquel, which is great because you've got the ability to just kind of sit back at speed 0 and zap things across the table. But when I started looking at the objectives, right, if you're going to take Doom Station, you're moving everything into your way, kicking off more Ramadi, which is good for you, and you're just doing all that more damage. You're pretty much going to guarantee that you're going to get that token at least 4 of the 6 turns. As you know, the second player here. Contested outpost, exact same thing. I mean, John, I'll let you talk on it because I always get a kick out of your thought process on using objectives to your advantage. I'm totally going to go first player to deprive Demolisher and the Onager from that first strike on, you know, any given turn. But like the rest of you guys, I have to take Ion Storm because anything else here is just not going to be good. And even Ion Storm is still going to be a little dangerous because you have to be right next to that obstacle to kind of keep yourself from getting the objective tokens, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of a lose situation here. And really, you're only... you got to blow stuff up, and you've got a gun for that Onager, and hope you can take that down. And if you're lucky, take the Kuat, because the demos, if you don't have one good round against it when it makes its attack, that thing's going to get away.
Yeah. So I would actually agree with this. Might be the first time we all agree on an objective to pick. But if I was first player in this, I would pick Ion Storm too. Contested Outpost would be the second one on that list, but that would be to make sure that he stays in one location. But all of his stuff, it doesn't matter where it goes in that. Like you can move first the demo into position to jump on them as they come close and gain the outpost. Then you have a Kuat that comes up behind it and then it can sit on the outpost. And then you have Raquel that just needs to go forward like speed 1, then drop to 0, and then it can aim around and control the outposts. Like, contested outpost is bad. And then like what Ken was saying about Doom Station is the moving, it's going to give them more Ramadi dice. So
let me ask you a rules question. Do you get the Ramadi dice with contested outpost since it doesn't obstruct?
No, the station does not obstruct, so you would not get the dice from that. But if let's pretend my little window is the game board, and this is like my deployment zone, and the station's my head, right? So I imagine the Kuat and the demo go down to the side of it at an angle, and Raquel goes down right in front of the station, right? So it goes forward 1 and then stops there because it can then do its pivot, while your Kuat and your demo go into, let's say, that lane that would take it across the board, which is what they're going to have to come down. So then you're shooting through your own ships to get the Ramadi dice in contested outpost. That's at least how I would play it in my head. While Doom Station, it can obstruct, and you can then move it along with your ships to keep it obstructed the entire time.
I'll say this, just, you know, like 132 point ISD is like a pretty cheap one, you know, like I think that's, and it can really, people talk about Christmas treeing, you know, and there's an extra ordnance slot there that he didn't opt to fill. He just probably ran out of points or just wanted to keep it cheaper. And really, what are you going to put there without, you know, APTs, but you don't really have the rerolls for that. So it's kind of like a nice lean ISD that you should not underestimate. You know, it's good to see a ISD performing well.
It's a survivable method to deliver boarding troopers. So Raquel can kill whatever you're shooting at.
I equally like the fact that both the Onager and the Kuat are priced about the same and the Onager's got Ramadi on it. So end of the day, you could afford to lose one in a lot of cases because you're probably taking more than 130 points from your opponent. And figure in most of these, you're probably going to get 100 points victory tokens if you're second player. So you kill a flotilla and a squadron, you could lose the ISD or the Onager and still win by a handful of points, theoretically.
I would agree with that. I like the point breakdown of this fleet. I think we've talked about it before on the on the podcast about how sometimes looking at your point breakdown of how many squadrons you bring, like if you're bringing a light squadron ball, like try to point it less than 60 points, so then their opponent can't just kill all your squadrons and get the 7-4. Like taking consideration in how much points your ships are allows you to more mentally trade them up or trade them for points across games.
Yeah, I was also going to say, I mean, the Kuat technically is a Christmas tree, but it just utilizes incredibly cheap upgrades in an incredibly synergistic way.
There you go.
That's, yeah, because it uses every slot, but, the most expensive one is ECMs. I mean, Piddock should be more expensive, but that's neither here nor there. But, yeah, it's it's a cheap, good copy to put on your table. Take note, take it home.
Copy it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Any other thoughts on this fleet? Let's move on to the next one then. Anyone? Nope. Okay, let's jump over to the third place fleet.
So third place is Jordan's a gate list. It's 392 points, so it does have an 8-point bid here. Has a whole bunch of stuff on it. So Kirste Gate is on an MC-30 torpedo frigate, one of my personal favorite ships in the game, with expert shield techs, ordnance experts, electronic countermeasures, external racks, H9 turbo lasers, and the Foresight title. It's a second MC-30 with Lando Calrissian, ordnance experts, external racks, H9 turbo lasers, and the admonition title. Then we get to a pair of flotillas. So the first GR-75 has Torren Far, a parts resupply, and the Bright Hope title. It seems to be a very common way to build up the flotilla with Bright Hope. And then the second one has Hondo and Comsnet. Now, when we get to squadrons, it's almost you got the beginnings of a fun squadron ball here at 132 points. You have Jan Ors, you have YT-2400, Ketsu Onyo, an X-Wing squadron, and Rogue. So you have a little bit of Rogue capability in there. You've got the X-Wing for escort to kind of keep a few things alive. And then Jan Ors, who's just sitting back, kind of helping defend all the other squadrons. I think the other interesting thing here is you've got the three of them are bombers, so the majority of them can do damage to your ships. So if you're going up against an squadless build, you've got some extra firepower here, and 132 points. That's a ship's worth. Yeah. Going to the objectives, we have Most Wanted, Hyperspace Assault, and Hyperspace Migration. So a lot of hyperspace stuff, and then of course Most Wanted. You're going to dump that onto the flotilla on your end, just because, why not? Overall, again, I'm a huge fan of MC-30s. I have my own take on whether Foresight or Admonition are worthwhile. I personally prefer advanced projectors myself.
I'm going to cut in here just real fast.
Go ahead.
I double checked because I just had gotten done talking about how it had a 2-point bid, and then you listed it as a 8-point bid. So I went back and I looked at the fleet in this. His second MC-30 had advanced projectors, which brings him up to the 398 points that we previously talked about.
There you go.
Advanced projectors is on
That's
the
my fault.
admonition.
It's my fault. I forgot to add the card. I made the link.
Yeah.
Spoke it into existence, Ken.
Yeah.
So there we go.
So Ken has nothing to talk about and argue about. He approves of this fleet.
No, I've already improved it by saying it and made it so, and that's amazing. So see, completely changed my opinion. Jordan, great play, because advanced projectors are awesome on MC-30s. You get good 6 extra shields out of that, which makes them a lot more survivable. So yeah, 2-point bid at 398 points. So I mean, MC30s are great. I think the only issue I have with having only two of them, you got to have both of them kind of right where you want them to be, on the right turn to be able to strike hard on anything. Just because, again, you're limited to blue range, and really where the major damage is going to be when you get into close, because then you can burn your external racks and get those extra dice. Now, what is nice is with those H9s, because inevitably you're going to be in that fun spot where you roll all hits across your die, and you've got your doubles and everything else, and you need to have at least one or two accuracies. So if you can get the one, you eliminate the brace. That's 90% of your really good dealings there in terms of damage with your MC30 fleets. What do you guys think of these?
I think they're really. Oh, you want to go, Ryan? Ryan's going.
Oh, I think it's a tough fleet to play against. It's very kind of point fortressy. MC30s are slippery. It's only 8 hull total to get the table, but you're never going to get the table because they're going to be flying away. They're super maneuverable. You have agate on one of them, and then the fighter ball is as good as any fighter ball the Rebels can put out there. We don't see a ton of 4 YT-2400s anymore. We usually see more ace play. So that's this is the kind of thing where it's like, all right, if I don't like the matchup, I'll just send the rogues out. If you don't have enough fighters or some way, I'll just send them out, go kill something, get a 7-4, and the rest of my fleet is going to fly away and not do anything. That's how I kind of envision that this fleet flies. I don't know what the ECMs are doing there. I think that's just maybe an emergency. If I do need to use a kind of counter intel, maybe tech, intel officer, maybe, or accuracy, I guess more like an accuracy tech for an evade, maybe. So that's interesting to have agate and an ECM on a ship with redundant defensive tokens. This is an interesting call.
Yeah. So I thought the same thing when I looked at the fleet, and what makes this different than most other agate fleets is that you don't see whale explicits on it. And because of that, so you don't have whale explicits on this. So agate normally would just toss one of her tokens and then just get it right back. And sometimes you just don't want to toss your token, and ECM allows you theoretically to, once per turn, use like an agate effect without tossing the token and being able to stay alive. So you can survive then 2 major attacks by using the ECM to take it, and then the next one you can agate out if you need to. That's kind of my thoughts on that. As a whole, it is so hard to hunt down and pin down MC30s, and most of the time I kill them by ramming them if they give you that option. And then you have the fighter ball that can sweep in and kill your fighters. What I think is interesting is Jan Ors with the YT-2400s gives you a lot of health to choose through, because Jan Ors by herself isn't going to do anything. So you have to then spend your initial attacks going in to kill her. Otherwise, those YT-2400s are going to last a very long time.
Thing is you bring that X-Wing squadron to kind of help protect Jan, and now you have to go through the X-Wing first to kill Jan while the YT-2400s are eating you or ship up. So it's kind of an interesting build. I like it. I'm going to have to try this out just because it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it definitely buys 2 rounds easily before anything else gets hit. They pace the fighters correctly. But yeah, first thing I ever think when I see these fleets is this is going to be annoying. They got foresight, ammunition. Lando, he's like, nah, that's a great roll you got there, but I'm not my YT-1300 today. No Falcon, no dice for you. But yeah, I mean, these things are great. They always kick my butt in my actual butt of the ship. But I mean, I got nothing too advanced to say beyond what you guys did, but these are great defensive ships. And ever since that evade change, those 2 titles, it just doubles down. They're just even better.
Yeah.
So, and
also,
then yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, because I was saying EST is always good on a ship with 2 redirects.
Possibly 3 with agate.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
was
what he
thinking
did.
exactly that would be to get another redirect with Agate, and that would make that MC30 near invincible.
That'd be hot.
Yeah.
Hot.
You're probably taking a brace, but if you look at the other fleet and you're like, well, I don't even think I'm going to get hit by that, take a redirect and then you can't get killed by their fighters. So what's fun about the H9 is if they're a fighter rebel list, which we see a lot of, this allows you with your MC30s to you target one of their flotillas with one of your MC30s. You fly into their fleet, you kill their flotillas out, and you fly out, and then you let your squad ball kill their squad ball, and you've then killed about 160-ish points of stuff without really any major losses because your ships are now all out of there, and your flotillas don't even have to fly near it. So you can get a big win against what we see commonly out there by just flotilla hunting with these. Like, you don't even have to go after... I'm sure they can kill big ships, but you don't even have to if you don't want to. You can just kill the flotillas and fighters and leave. So that's kind of my take on it. So let's talk about, again, because we've added in, would you take first or second against it? Because it has almost no bid. Like, technically, it's a big bid for what was in the top 8 of this tournament at 2 points. They pretty much have their choice over anyone except for one other player in the top 8. But what would you pick, first or second, against this fleet, and then what objective if they were second player?
I would definitely take first player. No question. There's not a whole lot of shenanigans going on over there. His only thing is hitting me hard and then flying away. So I'm taking first. But if I had to take second, I think I'm definitely taking hyperspace migration. No questions asked. Hyperspace assault would suck because he's going to fly it right in your rear. Most wanted. There's no reason to give him that opportunity. Yeah, but no, hyperspace migration. No questions. That's me.
Ryan, first, second, what objective?
I would take first. They're too slippery to take second, in my opinion. And let's go whale watching, man. Let's take hyperspace migration.
Get them Purgles out there.
At least you know where they're going to be, right? You know, like at least you know where the ships are going to be, and they can't really move too far if they want to score points. So let's go.
Okay, I'm going to do something crazy. I'm actually going to take second, and I'm going to take and let them move first. Let them play with my objectives, because usually I fly an MC30 Kraken fleet. I would know exactly where their ships are. They're torpedo frigates, so they have to come in, and I'm going to have an opportunity to hit them pretty hard before I run away. So that's the only reason that I would go second with a fleet like this. Having said that, usually my Kraken fleet runs at 399 or 400, so my guess is I'd be forced to go first, at which point, I mean, I'd probably just go most wanted and hope that the one MC30 that they choose as the one to blow up as my most wanted ship doesn't die. But that's, how that would wind up working out. This would be an interesting one. It might wind up being, Ken happened to bring 398 points today, and it becomes a roll-off for who gets to choose the first or second player.
Yeah. So I don't like giving first player to multiple MC30s. It's kind of like the same thing as giving first player to demo. It's like just the rebel equivalent to it. So I would try to be first if I was a first player fleet. And then it just depends on what type of fleet I have, what objective I would pick. I know that sounds like a cheap buyout, but like what you guys were saying with hyperspace migration, while they could churn a lot of points with it, right? But you kind of know where they're going to have to be on the other side of the table. And because it doesn't add in debris fields or anything like that, there's nothing that's blocking your shot. And like we saw a lot of onagers in this. Like, you could just line up and you could just fly across the table at them slowly with like an onager, trying to pick them off as they fly and try to collect the Purgle points. Like, it's just a shooting range then. If you're not running like an onager list that can do that, though, I would probably go most wanted. And it seems crazy, but that means they have to move in and engage you. They can't just fly away from you. Like, they could try to send their fighters in, but most wanted, I think, is like the best generic fleet. Like if you just were like, oh, I'm bringing a fun, like, I wouldn't say fun, I'm gonna say Sloan next, but if you were just bringing like your standard, like I have an ISD, I have an Arca-10, I have a Quasar / Gazantes and some fighters type of generic list, and then whatever commander you want, I would pick Most Wanted. They're gonna pick your ISD, and then you just have to try to outkill them as they come in. That's what the game becomes then, instead of they fly into your rear with hyperspace assault, because that's, I swear, the biggest mistake of any of these fleets is allowing the ship to fly in behind you. And then hyperspace migration, they could churn a few more points, is kind of my take on it. Like if they kill my big ship, I've lost anyway, so who cares if it's Most Wanted?
No, I agree with you. It's you have to kill 2 of the MC30s. If you then you table, you win. But if you don't kill 2 of them, they kill 1 of your ships. Odds are it's going to cost more. You figure your average big ship's going to be somewhere between 130 and 200 points. You got to kill both of them. You don't have an option, and they're going to push the Lando ship that costs 95 out first. And then in a situation like me with MC30s, they're 90 points, 80 points a pop. Yeah, you can afford to give 2 of them up. So you really have to want to go after the pair of MC30s to be able to do your job. Otherwise, yeah, it doesn't matter how many points you lose by, because if you're not tabling them, you're losing. Yeah.
Any other thoughts about this fleet? Nope. Okay, so let's move on to our next fleet. The next fleet is the second place fleet, who was the last year's winner, I believe, of LVO, which is Sam S. Sam S comes in at 400 points. He brings a Ramadi list. He puts it on a not so often seen Victory 2 class Star Destroyer, and he Christmas trees it up to an extreme rate. So he has 2 cards that allow him to add different types of cards on here. So it's even more Christmas treated than your standard Victory Star Destroyer can be. So it has Minister Tua, which allows him to bring a defensive retrofit, which he brings with that the ECM card. He has gunnery teams, disposable capacitor, so he can throw blue dice at long range. XI7, so you can't use your redirects. Point defense ion cannons, so he can reroll when you're at close range. The Haro title, which gives you, I believe that's, what's that icon? That's a specialty
Support
team.
Fleet support or something?
Support team. And then he brings engine tech. So he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards on a Victory 2 Star Destroyer, and that with the commander comes up to 145 points. It's like it's as expensive as an ISD2, which is crazy. It's super expensive.
Only 3 more points in that Kuat.
Right. Crazy.
Bargain basement.
Okay, so then the second ship in this fleet is an Onager class Star Destroyer, which you also don't normally see a lot of. Normally people bring test beds, but he brought it for, I believe, a specific purpose, and we'll talk about that when we get to the title. It is Intel Officer on it, so he can make you discard things. He has Veteran Gunners, Ordnance Experts, XI7s on this. This is one of the reasons why I think he brought the Star Destroyer, because the test bed doesn't have a turbo laser slot. So both of his combat ships here, you can't really use redirects with. He has the Red Beam, Orbital Bombardment Particle Cannons, and then the Sunder title. What I think is interesting is both the Onager fleets that were talked today did not use Cataclysm. They used the other titles. People are exploring now the other titles of this. This is a very expensive card. It costs 10 points. It is blue or black criticals is what you need. You may discard this card to choose and discard 1. I believe that is offensive retrofit, defensive retrofit, ordnance, ion, or turbo laser card from the defender. So you discard this card to do it. So it's a one-time use, and you can get rid of something that's important for the other player's ship to stay alive, in essence. That's how I see it. And because the Onager class Star Destroyer has blue and black dice instead of just red, so it has a rainbow, so it has red, blue, and black dice for its ignition shot, compared to the test bed that only has red and black. you have a higher chance then of getting the blue or black crits to trigger Sunder. So a lot of times you see like CIS and GAR fleets that have the thermal shields on it. This will allow you to discard the thermal shields card so they can't use it anymore. So that's how I imagine that he's using this card, or targeting something very particular on the other player's ship that will allow him to try to kill it. The rest of his fleet is 2 Gazantes. The first one has Darth Vader and Comsnet, and the second one is just Comsnet. And then there's a very unique grouping of cards. He has Tell, which is an escort. We see him a lot. Then he has Captain Jonas. And Captain Jonas is one of my favorite squadrons, but you don't see a lot of play with him, and you don't see a lot of play with him, especially since we went to the 4 ace cap. What he allows you to do is a friendly ship, while a friendly ship is attacking a ship at distance 1 of you, so that's the squadron, it may change one of its dice to a face with an accuracy. So that means on all of his victory shots, because they have red dice, all of his onager shots, all of his shots that he gets to add the Ramadi dice, there is a dice that's in there that he can just change at any time to an accuracy, which allows you to kill most anything, especially when you have like Intel Officer, and he has XI7, so he's going to be able to lock down that brace and remove whatever method you're using to get rid of like ECM. He can remove ECM with Sunder. He can remove thermal shields with Sunder. Like, this fleet means that you almost don't have defense tokens, and it's crazy good. Then he has Zurich Storm to help keep Jonas alive, and Black Squadron, which is another escort. So he has 3 escort squadrons that are probably just there to circle around Jonas, so Jonas can stay alive for as long as possible in this match. Yeah, so I like it. It's very good. His objectives are Most Wanted, Contested Outpost, and Infested Fields. So that's the list. Do you guys have any thoughts on this list?
My first thought is the Sunder title is why there was no advanced projectors on the prior fleet that I just talked about.
Oh, it got discarded. That's what.
Yeah, it got discarded. Garrett knew that's what happened in advance. I'm pretty much going to mimic. Yeah, exactly. Should have taken second. So I'm going to mimic pretty much everything, John, that you said on this fleet. I mean, it's mean. I love victories. That's one of my favorite ships to play if I'm doing Empire. But it's a loaded up one. I mean, it's yeah, you're right. For 20 points less, you can get an ISD2 and get almost all of that that comes with it. In fact, I think actually, if you just look at what's there, and an ISD2, you're about 22 points beyond. Might actually be cheaper to get the ISD2, or about the same cost.
No, I don't think it's.
No, ISD2s come in at like
170, right?
160.
But
yeah.
If you equip it with gunnery teams, XI7s, PDICs, and ECMs, though, that's another, what, 25 points? So 145?
But it also doesn't have the commander on it.
Well, yeah.
Add another 20, so that's
not
45.
They said you can't do victories, and he said, watch me. Yeah. Watch me take this victory to the moon.
I feel like Sam is showing off a little bit here. Like,
no way.
When I first saw this list, I'm like, is this list good, or is it because Sam's good? And I think it's a little bit of both. Because most of the lists that I look at, I'm like, is this a Sam list, or is it just Sam being a good player? And I think it's a little bit of both. It's the same thing with his list that won last year, which was the Thanks for Playing Onager and Double Interdictor list. And people tried to copy it because it was very, very, what do I want to call it? Repressive of everyone that ever played it. And people tried it and they lost like bad, because while it looks simple to run, you have to be a skilled player to pull it off right. And I think that's what I see in a lot of his fleets. Like, this fleet is really good, but you gotta really have to know what you're doing to pull it off with it.
Yeah, it's we talk about high skill floor, low skill floor fleets. This is a high skill type of fleet to fly, because because that 145 points, if you fly wrong, if you miss a click, you're dead, right? And it'll whack you, right, with the double XI7s, which is really cool to see. I mean, it'll drill through, MC30s, it'll drill through it, your small, this will kill small ships, right? It'll kill small ships. So, it can put out a hurting, but don't misfly it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump into, again, it's 400 points. So would you take first or second? And then if you did take first and had to choose from the objectives, what would you pick?
This is a tough one. Ooh.
I'm
Gut instinct tells
going to choose second for me, and then I'll grab a few tokens and run away. That's what I'm doing. If I'm forced for first, most wanted, and run away.
So Hara's gonna get you. All right, Hara's coming. He's gonna indicate.
It's a speed 3 victory. It's something to look out for.
It is, but it's just a victory.
I think I would take infested fields. Like, I hate doing that with Ramadi, and they're going to just position to get the extra Ramadi dice, so it gets the firepower of most wanted without having to choose it. But the other ones are just tough for me. So I think I do infested fields.
Yeah, it's copycat infested fields.
Okay, so I'm gonna go out on this limb. Again, it depends. My fleets, most of the time, I specifically designed to be second or to be first, so I would take whichever I designed this fleet to be. I would not take infested fields, and it's not about this list, it's about the player that I'm playing this list against. If this is Sam, I'm not taking infested field and allowing him to control where obstacles go the entire game, especially with the Exergoths, because looking at this list highly revolves around that Jonas fighter being near my ships. And if that Jonas fighter is near my ships, he doesn't care if he can sacrifice it to an Exergoth to keep it in place. But that Exergoth is going to make it nearly impossible for me to kill through his squadrons to get it off. And the other options, I could then try to focus down his fighters and kill them, and then not get the Jonas dice every time. But infested fields means like he could position it so that the obstacle's blocking and obstructing my ship, so he's getting extra dice. The Exergoth is making a no-go zone for any of my fighters, and then Jonas just sits in the middle of it, giving out accuracies for free. This is kind of like a nightmare fuel of what infested fields can be like. And he's using Exergoths as another added on defense for his squadrons. Like, if you have a big squadron ball, well, cool, chase down all my escorts as they fly next to your ship, and you get killed by Exergoths. That's kind of what I see when I see this objective, because that's how I would play infested fields a lot of times, is like a defensive maneuver. I hate saying I would choose most wanted, but again, I think it's most wanted. It comes down to the same thing that I said about the last fleet. I'm going to either win, or he's going to kill anyway the ship that most wanted on, and I've already lost. So contested outpost with him, he can just sit on it. As much as I love putting a contested outpost in my list, very rarely will I ever pick it when it's in the opponent's list. That's kind of my take on it.
I like it. I guess the Onager's kind of vulnerable. I'm sorry, Ryan, keep going.
Oh, I have a completely irrelevant thing to bring up, but I just wanted to point out the Sunder artwork is hilarious, because it's just an Onager getting wrecked on the side.
Hold on, let me flash it up on screen.
Yeah, by a Liberty, right? Yeah.
It's like all the other titles are like showed like the strength of the ship and everything, and this Onager is like on one hull.
I've never noticed that before. It really is. It's getting side attacked. It's like not even pointing in the right direction in an asteroid field.
It's getting Ratus dropped right now. Ratus drop in the middle of it.
Oh, that's so funny.
Maybe that's just an indication that you should be playing infested fields, because there's your asteroids.
Yeah.
Exergoths are there, and this. You know what? It's indicative of Jonas being right next to that big ship, and it just needs to turn itself. Problem is, it's Sunder, not Raquel.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's taking a face up from the asteroids.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there is other artwork like this, but this is the only one I know of. Like the title card of the ship is getting wrecked.
I've never noticed it before, and it's super funny. It looks like someone Radis dropped a Liberty right into its side, and it's gonna have a bad day.
Yep.
Do we have
Those are my thoughts on the fleet.
any other thoughts on this fleet besides the artwork that I've never noticed? So thanks for pointing that out.
I just love that he casually wrecked everything with a victory. It's amazing. What a champion.
Okay, so let's jump into the first place winner.
Oh man, here we go. I believe this is Joseph, right? That's his name.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So we've got CIS. We have done it. Clone Wars clinches first place, and it's Mark Took, of course. He's got two Munificents. First Munificent here, we got Mark Took, Wat Tambor, Projection Experts, Thermals, Pidix, LTTs, Sa Nalor. And then the second Munificent has got Projection Experts, Thermals, Pidix, LTTs. And then he's got a Recusant, obviously, Patriot's Fist with the swivels, the Assault Proton Torpedoes, Vet Gunners, and Tykes. And then we've got a hard sell with Projection Experts, Parts Resupply, and Beasts of Burden. No squadrons. This list is great. I love the fact that he's got Wat Tambor on the lead Maleficent so that he can Projection Experts shields from it to the Recusant while still getting shields back on his own ship with Wat Tambor, and is basically pulling shields from another ship behind that ship to jump to basically leapfrog his ship to the Recusant that's getting beat. I think that's cool. Projection Experts are awesome in these CIS fleets. The Patriot's Fist obviously super dangerous. I think Tykes is there for that Confire token. And then other than that, he's got Beast of Burden, which is, again, I think there to refresh those defense tokens on either that Martuk Munificent or the Recusant again. But what are your guys' thoughts on this? It's a pretty standard Martuk fleet, but I think it's probably flown better with these Projection Experts than a lot of other ones I've seen, especially keeping that Recusant alive, because I have a lot of time keeping my Recusants alive, and I like this. I'm going to take a lot of elements from this. What do you think?
Yeah. So before we go any farther, Joseph specifically asked us not to talk about his objectives because he's currently in things and playing with it. So we're respecting that. But he can pass his Recusant 6 shields a turn with all the Projection Experts that he has in this fleet.
And refresh the defense tokens.
Yeah, that's a lot of shields that can go back to it.
It's crazy. It's good.
I'm so glad we got a CIS winner. Like, this is awesome, right? Of a major tournament. It's really cool. I feel like this is the breakout. Like, CIS has been doing really well in tournaments. And what I take away from, I think CIS as a faction is in a really strong position. And when I look at this fleet, what I think about is I'm not going to be able to put more ship firepower on a table than what is in this fleet. There's so much ship firepower in here because between the 2 munis, double arcing with Martuk and the Recusant and Beast of Burden, like, there's a lot of firepower, and good luck finding more fire, another fleet that can match the number of dice thrown from the ship.
Yeah. Munificents are my favorite medium-based ship, and they are extremely good, and they're already tanky before you add things like Wat Tambor and multiple Projection Experts to transfer ships' shields. And then they have thermals, and then they have point defense. Like, it's super tanky, and like Martuk's flagship with the Sadalor title gets an evade then instead of using its salvo. So like at long range, it's super tanky. So like, what part of this fleet do you focus down shooting? That's an open question because super,
Well, the
super
Recusant
important.
is the only one you can shoot at because he's going to position it in a way that the Moonies are too far away and they're obstructed, and they're just going to be feeding that Recusant, and you're just going to that's all you can really do is pour fighter anti fighter into it, and then your ship's attacking it because that's the only part that doesn't have a defensive retrofit.
So Joe knows that, right? And he goes by Skycake on the Discord, and so I watched the photos of his game with Boba Fett, and he knows you're going to focus your Recusant, and what he did in that game was just kind of fly casually, parallel to the board, and not give away the Recusant, not give away a good chance to get those two shots, two mega shots you need to kind of per turn to take it out. And he just kind of sent his munis in, and I think he beat Broba in that game. I'm not 100% sure,
Yes.
but like he knows that, and he's been flying Patriots Fist enough. I played him at Gen Con, I think, or Adepticon last year, so he knows how to keep Patriots Fist safe. And this isn't a fleet. What I love about this fleet is this isn't a fleet where you can kind of send your rogues in, kind of try to take something out because they're just going to out heal you. You're just not going to be able to do enough damage.
And double flak.
Yeah.
Brutal flak.
The flak is brutal. So if you decide to send your rogues in, and they get pinned somehow between both of these munificents, they just choose one of your, let's take a pick, YT 2400s because it's the most prevalent rogue squadron that's out there. Each turn he can throw a black or red, re-roll the red with Link Turbo Laser Towers, and then throw 2 more blacks on it with Link Turbo Laser Towers twice. So he can throw 8 dice at a single fighter, with most of them should be coming up as hits. If you run the averages out, he can kill a YT 2400 each turn. So you're not going to be able to, most fleets we see 4 YT 2400s. Over the course of the game, he's killing all 4 of them, and your ships, so 4 terms of YT 2400s bombing you, right? So first term you bomb them. Those 4 dice only do 3 hits on average, just talking about it. And then you add PDIC in there, so that drops down to 2. So your 4 fighters do 2 damage on the first turn. Then he kills one. Now you have 3 fighters. You're going to get 2 hits. Probably 1 damage goes through with PDICs. And then he kills another one. And that's not even including possibly salvoing one of those fighters to finish it off. So he's killing all your fighters, and it will not do enough damage with fighters to kill it. So sending your fighters in against it is a mistake. That's my take on it. It's super, super tanky, but if he chooses to kill fighters instead of your ships, he can wipe out all your fighters.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was thinking. Looking at this, you've got your red, black, flak. You add 2 more. Your statistical average to hurt is 3 or 4. And if you get lucky, you get doubles on the red. I mean, that's potentially 5 points of damage. That'll knock a lot of squadrons out, just even in the single shot. And like you said, you salvo one just because why not? And you're rolling 2 reds. So you're realistically gonna be able to. You might even be able to take
black
2
and
out.
a red because it's your
anti-squadron.
anti-squadron.
Anti-fighter. But needless to say, you actually potentially could take 2 of them out per turn. If you use both of your munificents on it. This is mean, and thermal shields. This is just going to sit there and take a lot of damage. Watambor is going to be, burning, tokens, but that's 10 points engineering wise, I think. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have objectives, but it's at 400 points. So do you pick first or second against this fleet?
I'm taking second. I got to get some sort of control out of the situation because he doesn't care. This fleet does not care at all. There's no. I know what they pick. I know I can guess what his objectives are, but yeah, it doesn't matter. What are you guys?
Think I go. Probably go second, maybe first. Yeah, I'd go second. I'll go second. Make him play to my objective.
He's already in your head, and he's not even at the table yet.
And he's already messing with me, which is great. I'd probably target the hard sell. I know it's going to be at the back end of his fleet.
You might get in the hard zone.
try and
No,
get
there's
around.
no way.
That is my idiot superhero thinking plan. That is what I'm going to try and do, and I'm going to fail miserably. And I think what's funny is that I'm going to wind up losing 400-0.
I mean,
Hence prediction.
I mean, this is, like this is like a fleet that wants to respond to chip damage, right? It's like, you want chip damage me? Okay, I'll heal you 6 shields just from projection experts, and then I'll engineer 2 on top of that. Like you don't take this fleet out unless you have burst damage, right? You don't win this game unless you have burst damage. So this is like chip damage fleets. Let's go. No problem. I'll shrug it off. I think, and any time I've ever played against Patriots Fist, if I don't target and take out Patriots Fist, it's 400-0. So, and you can't fly away from it because it's got such goofy looking arcs and it speed 3. So it's tough, but I think you got to go after the Recusant, and I think I take first to do that.
Yeah. One thing that you can use against it is it's 4 deployments.
Sure.
So, unless he has solar / superior positions, you will pretty much get your last ships down when his whole fleet's down. But he knows that, and we saw the same thing when was it Polish or was it France? It was one of the Europeans matches that Gar won, and it was like
Poland.
It was Poland. It was like 2 Venators and 2 Peltas, and like that's it. Like, you're so out deployed. Like, most people haven't even like finished putting out half their fighters, and your whole fleet's on the table. So if you know that, you just come prepared with a game plan of how you put your ships down. So I'm sure he has. So I haven't given an answer yet for first or second, and I don't ever change my plan when I go into things when I have fleets. So whatever I was intended to do, if I have a first player fleet, I go first. If I have a second player fleet, I go second, because I don't like looking at your fleet and trying to decide if I want to be first or second is not something that's like playing too many head games. Like, I'd rather just know before I go to a tournament, specifically in a tournament play, what I'm doing. So that's kind of my answer to it. And then looking at this fleet, I can just guess the objectives, and second player making him go second is probably a mistake.
I want to see Ryan take his SSD against this fleet. That's what I want to see.
This would not, the SSD would not do well against
It would eat it for lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be like,
It's,
yum, 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 yum. Do you
So
have
many
another
guys.
SSD?
I can't run with the SSD, can I? So
No. But you might actually take one ship down, though.
I would take a ship down.
Yeah.
Take a ship down.
You take a ship down. You'd lose, but you'd take a ship down, and that'd be a victory, right?
There you go.
I'm looking for the bright points of life here.
Yeah. No, this is a very well put together list. There's not necessarily a major weakness in it, and the major weakness is keep the hard sell in the back and put your other ships forward. So like, yeah.
Yeah, this is peak CIS synergy.
Yes, it is.
3 projection experts.
Yeah. It's hard to keep up with that.
Skycake, you got your world tickets. So see you at Worlds.
Yeah. Congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you there. So that's kind of the wrap up for the LVO coverage. Do you guys have any final thoughts on the tournament as a whole?
I think it's fun to see what people are bringing, and start getting ideas of what we might be seeing at Adepticon or some parts of it. We've got some killer fleets that were in the top 4 here, and I'm very curious to see if it is truly indicative of either West Coast region here in the States, or if this is going to be a chunk of what we're going to see meta wise at Adepticon.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of surprises. A lot
Yeah.
of weird stuff mixing from this and that. Big bids, high bids, low bids.
Yeah. The nice thing about Worlds is that it's not going to be so much region, because we're going to have people from Europe, we're going to have people from Australia, we're going to have people from Canada and across the United States, and like the vast differences between like the coast versus Midwest of the United States, like what Ryan was saying about the West Coast, super, super bursty damage. You see a lot of onagers out there. The East Coast, we have a lot of, everyone talks about how Nova is nothing but Star Destroyers and doubled and triple Star Destroyers. And then you have the Midwest, which is like hardcore fighters / rebels. Like you're going to have a whole mix of everything. So right now it's hard to predict meta to begin with. We're seeing patterns, but the patterns are drastically shifting back and forth between, are we farming you to death, or are we actually just going to kill you? Do we have high bids or do we have low bids? All of that's going to come in at Worlds, and it's going to be a mess because there's going to be people that are like, this is what works in my area, and I'm not going to change it because it works for me. And you're going to have people that are going to try to respond to it, and you're going to see crazy builds come from that. So it's going to be all over the place. So it's really hard for me to predict what will be at Worlds, but it's going to be fun to watch.
Well, anything else? What do we want to plug? Oh, what else are we playing? This is Ryan's
favorite segment.
This is it. What else are we playing? Ryan, what else are you playing?
I am just very quickly, because we've been going on for a while now. I played over Christmas Betrayal at a House on a Hill, or Betrayal on a House on a Hill, FFG game. Rented it from the library, which was kind of cool. I didn't know you could kind of rent board games from the library. But we liked it so much we ended up buying it. It's just kind of like a dungeon crawler, explore a spooky house, murder mystery type thing. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun for like a family. So I recommend it.
Is that the game that you play like halfway through the game and then one player ends up being the person that you've been chasing the whole time, like Scooby-Doo style, and then that player has to transition to trying to win the game for themselves while the other players try to do it, and you don't even know that you're going to be the person that's the spy until that point, right?
Right. You don't know you're the traitor, right?
Yes.
There's a traitor and you don't know who that is in your midst, and you don't know you are the traitor. And so it's a lot of fun, good time for like family, like low complexity, kind of like very fun.
I love it. Ken, what else are you playing?
2 games that I've actually been playing recently. One's called Mechs and Minions. I don't know if you guys have heard this. Big box. You move your little, they're called yordles. Kind of like a fantasy setting. But anyways, they're like little mechs. The one I like is riding a mech that looks like a giant bomb, and he likes to blow things up. But there's a card programming mechanic that's kind of half Robo Rally, a little bit of Space Alert, kind of a thought process. But you draft your cards, you pick where they go on your 6 different command slots, and then you just go through your turn and you stomp on minions and you shoot them and stuff like that. It's kind of a fun game, real simple, and the online tutorials, the voices on them are just great. Big box, if you're up for spending a little bit of money, that's one I suggest checking out. But the other one that I've been playing that I've been kind of enjoying, it's relatively new, called Starship Captains, where you've just been promoted to be captain of your own ship, and you've got a small little crew on board. And I think it's by CGE. And you go on different missions, you move your ship around. Your ship is clearly like old and falling apart, and you're kind of fixing it up as you move through the game. And the objective is to score points, and there's funny little stories at the end of it, depending on how well you do and whatnot. But it's in the same style of humor as Galaxy Trucker, where it's that kind of humor to it. It's a fun game. I enjoy it.
Fascinating.
That's what I've been playing.
Is the first game that you mentioned, is that the one that's produced by the video game company?
League of Legends?
Yes.
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. That's actually an older game. We're getting old, Ken. That's like been like out for almost 10 years now that I'm thinking about it.
Old
I
as
think
new.
it's like 2015, 2016, I finally pulled it out of the shrink rack.
It happens. That's the life of a board gamer, right?
Yeah.
Like games just sit around for years.
Yeah.
Oh. And I'm pulling games off the shelf, over Christmas from the 80s. So, I mean, yeah, blow the dust off of it, and then, I have to pop the chits and, clip them. So,
Classic.
yeah. What about you, Garrett?
I played my first game of Twilight Imperium. It seemed like it was supposed to be really fun. I had no idea what was happening, and it was like a lot of hours of being very confused. But I got a second game coming up, and now I know how to play. So let's go. It's going to be a lot better. I also played Star Wars Rebellion again, which I played a lot, but I just always bring it up because it's my personal favorite board game of all time. What about you, John? What else have you been playing? Big old Zero,
Yeah, I have
All
no
Armada.
free time. I have almost a 1-year-old, so I play around with him. Yeah, I haven't played. Besides playing Ken on the channel for our games, I don't think I've played a single game against anyone else since Gen Con. So that's kind of a sad fact. But yeah, I don't have really free time to play. I've been in my spare time now. I do a lot of like 3D printing of like terrain pieces. I got an Under 3 to do that. So I set it up and then I can forget about it for like 24 hours at a time and then come back to it. That's about as close to gaming as I get right now.
I like it. It'll come back. You'll be there with the 1-year-old who will be 6.
Yeah, I blinked
board
and he's
game player.
1, so I'm gonna blink and he's gonna be 6, and then I'll get to teach him all the board games, and it's gonna be a blast.
Played I have a 4-year-old, so she's just kind of starting to get into like little stuff. So we played Go Away Monster, which is like technically a board game. It's like a very fun, starter, very simple, but she likes it, and that's the only thing that matters, right? Just get excited about it. So
yeah,
around 4 is when I've started to kind of do that with my daughter.
Yeah.
Nice.
All
right, let's. Do they know where to find us? Is that in our pre-cut?
I hope so by now.
Outro.
Yeah, you can. We're any podcast pretty much site that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and then you can always find the video version on Ion Radio's YouTube channel.
Yeah. Love it. I'm not a beggar, but I want to beg people 5-star reviews, please. It gets us out there. Come on.
Thumbs up and hit the bell.
Yes, do it.
Yeah.
And don't forget, if you guys see us at Adepticon, please say hello. Unless, we're right in the middle of a tournament game, which will only probably be John and Ryan. But, then wait till between games to say hello to them. But you can say hi to me and Garrett.
Yeah.
We'll respond.
Yeah.
You can crash their Star Wars Rebellion game that they're playing.
Don't do that.
Now we're going to be playing Twilight Imperium in the corner with a bunch of other people,
So. All the old people?
Yeah, all the old people.
All right, that's good.
Okay, so thank you very much for listening, and if you're on our YouTube watching, hopefully you've enjoyed this and you've gotten some insight from us talking about the Las Vegas Open. Big shout out and congratulations goes to Joseph for winning. So until next time, I'm John.
I'm Ken.
I'm Garrett.
I'm Ryan.
We are the Command Staff, and you've been listening and watching to the Command Stack. Catch you later.